You're welcome to this other lesson of ours that we're about to have. I still thank the BBS that gives us this opportunity every now and then, especially in this situation. Please pay attention, gather your books and pens, and be prepared to write something for yourself. Okay? So before I begin on what we are going to look at today, I would like to talk about what we wrote about last time. That was minutes writing. I like the response that many of you gave. Many of you sent me your work. I tried to mark, and I sent you the comments that I had put attached to your work. Please continue to send this work. If I have not marked your work, please be patient. I will mark because it's a lot. But I'm still marking, and I will make sure that I mark everyone's work. The parents who are attending this lesson, thank you so much. Please pay attention and listen. So today we're going to look at basically speech writing. And I know by the end of this lesson, we shall be in position to write very good speeches of our own. Many of us have already studied the speeches in Senior 3. So if you're a Senior 3 student, please also pay attention. But if you're a Senior 4 candidate, please pay more attention. Because you may have studied in Senior 3, but maybe you've forgotten it. Or some other schools have not even studied it as per Senior 4. So let's pay attention and then see what we have to do in our speech. To begin with, before we begin writing a given speech or any speech, we must understand what is a speech. A speech is not something that is out of this world. It is something that we actually do almost on a daily basis. Every day you speak to your friend, you speak to the person next to you, you speak to your parents, you speak to your friends and anyone next to you. But here we are looking at what we call the formal speeches and then the formal speech writing. The speech that you will present that will be marked by your examiner or the examiner that will be attending to you, your audience. The speeches that you'll make in future on different occasions, and maybe even the speeches you're making now. For some of us who have already taken up leadership, and maybe we're in positions where we've been invited on a given party, and then you're supposed to make a speech. So I think you should pay more attention here and see some of the guidelines that you may have as to make a very successful speech. So we are saying here, as you may see, we are saying that a speech is a talk that a person gives to an audience. Of course, for you to have a successful speech, there must be an audience. Otherwise, people would think it's weird for you to begin talking to yourself. But we are saying it is a talk that you give to an audience. There must be people listening to you. There must be a person at least listening to you and others. Okay? So we are saying that it could be an address, it could be a sermon, it could be a lecture. So depending on where you are anyway. So if it is a sermon, that means that you're in church. Maybe you're talking about issues of religion. Okay? But that is considered also to be a speech. We are saying that it could be a lecture. It could be a lecture. These ones, it's basically on a subject, a given subject. In most cases in schools, colleges, universities, that's why we have lectures. So we're considering that as a speech. We're also saying it could be an address. So all these, you're going to see that they define what a speech is. If you look at them, whether it's a sermon, a lecture, an address, because an address is, you're speaking to a gathering. That is an address. You're addressing a group of people. So you're talking to them, you're talking to them, you're sharing with them or given information. So that is an address. So basically, these three and more can be used to define what a speech is. But formally, I would say that a speech is the art of addressing a gathering while placing particular emphasis on oral rather than writing skills. I want you to mark this, that the emphasis should be put on oral rather than reading and writing skills. When you look at all these skills, by the way, they go hand in hand. The reading, of course, you must have read. You researched on the topic you're going to talk about in your speech. Then when it comes to writing the speech, you must also have some skills of writing. You know that I must paragraph here, I must put a full stop here. Maybe these words should be put in a quotation if they're quoted words. Maybe this I should put a question mark if it is a question, a rhetoric maybe, and so on. You must have that art. However, we are saying here that when it comes to speech or speeches, when you are making a speech, that you should put much emphasis on the oral skills. How do you think this speech will be delivered successfully? What are those tactics that you think you should employ to make sure that this speech is delivered successfully orally? So that's why we are saying that most emphasis shall be put on oral rather than reading and writing skills. But we're not saying we're ignoring them. We're only choosing where to put emphasis. And if you look at our definition where we have said it is the art of addressing. Now the art, for some of us who have ever done art or you've heard of the word art. If you look at the students who are doing art, there is a lot of creativity that is involved in art. That's why sometimes when you're dressing, people could say, but he has no art in his dressing. She has no art. They're basically referring to the creativity skills are lacking. So here when we are saying it is the art of addressing, that means how creative can you be when you are addressing your audience? How creative can you be when you're addressing a given gathering? Yes, so you must employ the art. You must be creative enough and make sure that you put your audience to, make them pay attention, listen to you. And so those are some of the skills that you're going to use to ensure that you at least you attract your audience. Then we're saying that the tone and protocol. Now tone, the word tone here, and protocol. Of course, when you're writing a speech, there are some things that you cannot miss out on, like tone and protocol. So we're saying the tone and protocol of the speech will depend on the nature of the occasion. Now, when we talk about the tone, is the variation of your language. How do you vary? Is it a high pitch? Is it low? Is it in the middle? So that's what we call the tone. I mean, the tone will bring out the meaning. And maybe the tone will help you to put emphasis in given areas. And the tone will help you to simplify it for those who are maybe listening to you, watching you, and whatever the case, depending on which speech you're giving. So we are saying the tone and protocol will depend on the nature of the occasion. And we have said that there are different occasions on which you can give a speech. Some of the occasions are the different occasions on which you can give a speech. We could give a speech on a birthday party. These ones are common. And you're asked, maybe your sister has a birthday party, and then you've been asked, can you please, you being the eldest sister or the eldest sibling, can you please come and give a what? A speech. Maybe it is your friend's birthday party, and you've been asked to give a speech. Please do not shy away. Just use the tactics that you've been taught, either by your teacher or right now from this lesson, and then give that speech. Sometimes we shall have graduations. Other times we shall have PTA meetings. We have Board of Governors. Now these ones are more applicable in schools. That's why I'm using them. So the students can understand, at least understand them, meetings. Then sometimes we also have, we deliver speeches on school assemblies. School assemblies, other times on funerals, etc. So there could be different occasions on which you're going to deliver a speech. And that's why I'm saying that the tone and the protocol will vary depending on the occasion. And so that will make the type of the speech that you're about to deliver. So I do not expect you to deliver the same, rather to use the same tone and protocol of the birthday speech as that of the funeral. I do not expect. So while we are learning speech writing, we are going to see that depending on the occasion that has been availed to us, we shall see which tone and then which protocol, or how to go about protocol while we are writing these speeches. So at least what you should put in mind before you begin writing your speech is the occasion. What is the occasion that I should, I should look at before I begin writing my speech? We can go ahead and say that a successful speech at least rests on some principles at least. Principles of a successful what? A successful speech. What are some of the principles? What should we put in mind before we actually think of delivering this speech or think of even writing this speech? What should we put in mind? To begin with, I would ask the candidates to make sure that they prepare well. Prepare well. What do I mean by preparing well? At least when you've been told that this is the speech this is the occasion on which you're going to deliver a speech. Organize yourself. Do not just wake up one morning and you say, okay, today now I'm going to give a speech, and then you just walk to the platform. No, please prepare yourself well. And here, when I say prepare yourself well, please ensure that you prepare your introduction. Your introduction, body, and maybe the conclusion. Make sure you look at what will I say within this. What will I say in my introduction? What will I say in my body? What will I say in my conclusion? And make sure that at least you organize your speech in such a manner, in an orderly way. Then maybe the second principle that we should consider is to know your audience. Put in mind who your audience is. Know your audience. It is common sense that you should think about the people you are going to speak to. Now, I normally tell my students that if you are going to speak to nursery children, let's say there is a birthday party, maybe for one of the youngsters, maybe in the community, and maybe this youngster or the parents choose you. The youngster could be looking at you, you're in senior 4, you're in senior 3, but you are this youngster's role model. And they think you could deliver a very good speech on this child's birthday, let's say 5 to 7 years. And then here you come, and then you begin delivering or giving a very long speech with a lot of vocabulary, so many idioms. Come on, these learners are not going to pay, youngsters are not going to pay attention to you. Maybe you could begin by singing a song with them. Maybe jump around and then say something very short and then sing again with them. I mean, make your speech very interesting so that the people who are listening to you, however young or old they are, they do not lose track or do not lose attention. By the way, so many occasions, people have delivered speech, and before you know it, the audience is already booing you. They're already shouting at you, and they're already no longer interested. Or others resort to their other things. So let us avoid that. So we should know our audience, and knowing our audience, we will look at age, level of education, and so many others, and so many other things, aspects. So, and maybe their interest. What is that? Where is their interest? So you have to be in position to do what? To see that. Then 3, let us understand the topic. Okay? Understand the topic, at least. Understand the topic. As a speaker to be, or a person who's going to write a speech, a given speech, please understand the topic on which you are writing. The topic, the subject on which you're about to deliver a speech. make some thorough research on the topic. Of course, a student will say, but while I'm in an examination, how will I make research? The assumption is think more about this topic or this subject that you're about to write on before you begin. Otherwise, you may present yourself in an ugly manner that will make the examiner not appreciate what you have. So, but some of the speeches that you may maybe be in position to deliver outside the examination, make sure that you make some research. Read here and there so that you patch up your work, you put it together, and then come up with a successful speech. And then we are saying make a skeleton. A skeleton of the main points. This is going to make your work, by the way, it is going to make your work lucid, more interesting, and you will not lose track yourself. And you'll be in position to express yourself in a lucid way. Okay? You express yourself clearly. You know, there are some of the aspects that you must put in mind, that you do not forget your main points. Otherwise, what else will you be presenting? That's why you find somebody is talking about, I know I tell the prefects, and they laugh, that you find a prefect came to the assembly to talk about maybe hygiene. And before you know it, he has remembered that some students are not putting on proper school uniform. And then he remembers that, oh, there is also discipline. You're just remembering some of these points on the assembly there. And so that means that your speech is not going to flow chronologically. So make sure that your your speech is clear, because you have already made a skeleton of some of the points that you are about to talk about. Then we're going to look at the language. This is very important. So I'm saying that the language of the speech should be pegged to the level of the audience. I said this when you're delivering a speech to children of 5 to 7 or 8 years. It is not going to be the same language that you're going to use with the teenagers or students at the university. Here, the level of language may vary depending on the audience that you have. Okay? As much as with these young ones, you're going to use the English of ease and the simplest that they can understand. With the teenagers and maybe of secondary students, you could bring in one vocabulary here and there, which makes it very interesting or more interesting. And then as you go higher, maybe if you're talking to senior adults, you may need to bring in some proverbs, some idioms, so that you make sense to them as you speak. So the language is very important to consider while you're delivering your speech. Then we are saying then deliver your speech with confidence. Deliver your speech with confidence. Here, confidence is very important when it comes to speech writing. I know sometimes it does not come immediately, but I normally encourage my students that while you are delivering this speech, I know the first minutes while you're standing in front of this big gathering, sometimes it is a little scary. I encourage my students to look at the farthest to the wall. By the way, when you're looking to the farthest of the wall, the gathering or the people who have gathered think that you're looking at each of them. But for you're looking at the farthest. And then while you're looking, of course, before you know it, as you talk and continue to speak to them, you do not need to stand in one place. You keep on moving. You keep on moving slowly by slow. You move from one place to another. Before you know it, you've already gathered momentum. I think within the first 5 minutes or 10, you will have gathered momentum. And then you can be able to continue your speech confidently. And when the gathering of the audience realizes that you are confident, many of them will pay attention because they think that you have sense in what you're saying. However, when you show the audience that you're a little timid and you cannot be able to deliver, then the chances are very high that they will not pay attention to you. They will not trust you. They do not think that what you're telling them is really worth listening. So that's why I call upon you to make sure that you you become confident, or you ensure confidential. You have confidence while you're delivering your speech. And this is out of practice. Because like we have said, prepare well. You must have practiced your speech through before you deliver it. So maybe we can look at some of the parts of the speech writing. Can we look at the parts of the speech writing? So we are saying that some of the parts of speech writing. I had come up with a box, some kind of boxes. I had drawn something like this. I wish it can be shown through the screen. I came up with a heading here. Just to make it simple for us, what is involved in the heading? The heading is equally important in our speech writing. Because apart from speech delivery orally, there is what we call speech writing. And speech writing, this is what we are going to present to our examiners while they are marking us. Either, of course, the examiners can be our teachers at school. They can be anybody who is marking our work is our examiner. So we are looking at the heading. What should we put in the heading? Okay? So here the heading we shall say, whose speech? Okay? Whose speech is this? So you must indicate the person who is delivering this speech. Are you the one? In which category are you delivering this speech? In most cases, when a question comes on speech writing, they will tell you, maybe assuming you are the sanitary prefect. Assuming you're the class monitor of senior 3B. Assuming you are the member of parliament of your area. Something like that. So whose speech is that? Or whose speech are you writing? Then we're going to look at the venue. In other words, where is this speech delivered? If you're delivering in the speech on the school assembly, show it, indicate it so that people can see that that is where the venue was. Then, most important, do not forget the date. Okay? When are you delivering this speech? It is very important that people know that you delivered this speech on such and such a date. Okay? It is very important. I could use an example from our, an example of a heading from our, one of the examples that we have here. We have speech by the district inspector of health, district inspector of health, on 12th June 2020, about the cholera plight at Gulu district headquarters. We may not need to underline because it is in capital letters. I've already told my students, and I've always told students that when you write in capital letters, you don't need to underline. We underline subheadings when they're in small letters, or what we call the lowercase. But when it is uppercase, then you don't need to underline. So this is our heading, if you may see. When I talked about whose speech, you're going to see we have said speech by the district. The district inspector of health. So that is, he is the person delivering this speech. And then we are saying the venue. Where is the venue? The venue is the district headquarters. And then when was this speech delivered? It was delivered on 12th June 2020. So basically, these are some of the gists that we must have in our speech writing. Ensure that at least you have these three aspects in your heading. And then you can be assured of the marks for the heading. Then from the heading, we said we shall go to we see that we shall go to the introduction. We shall go to the introduction. And what shall we have in our introduction? Okay? We're going to see that in our introduction, we're going to have what we call protocol. Protocol, this is the respect that we give to the people who are within the audience that are attending or listening to us. Some of these people, of course, their titles are a little, let's say, maybe more pronounced than the other members in the audience. Let's take a school setting. In a school setting, if it is an assembly, let's say in the main hall, the assembly grounds, you realize that the administrators and maybe teachers, at least their titles are more pronounced than the students, even when all of them are within the same area of the assembly. So you realize that whoever is making this speech is going to make recognition of these people in their order. And we are saying that we are beginning from the highest ranked person. Maybe I could mention it here. Begin from the highest ranked person. Ranked person. To the lowest. And you're going to realize that in the school setting, we're going to begin with the head teacher, maybe the deputies, director of studies, teachers, prefects, and then students. So you begin from the highest ranked person to the lowest. So we shall look at the protocol in our introduction. Then we're also expected to look at the self-introduction. Self-introduction. This is where you come and do what? And introduce yourself. Who are you who is speaking to us? Okay? Who are you who is speaking to us? You say, after maybe the head teacher, the deputies, director of studies, prefects, and students, maybe you greet them. My name is Kyagulanyi, maybe Peter, the head prefect of Chankwanzi High School. Okay? So that, yes, whoever is listening to you, yes, oh, all along that is the prefect, the head prefect we voted. I had not realized he's the one. But there some of the senior ones may not know you. They may have even voted your name, but they didn't even recognize you. And maybe other students, or other people, depending on where you're giving the speech. All along, that is our member of parliament. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I didn't, something like that. But you introduce yourself. Then after that, you can go ahead and greet people. Or you could either way, depending on what you want. You could have greeted them first and then introduced yourself. But all this comes in there, in the introduction. Then you can give a brief background. A brief background on that topic. Brief background on the topic. At that time, you could begin telling us how, maybe if it is a funeral, let's say it's a eulogy you're giving, you could be telling us how you know the deceased. How you met, something like that. You're giving us just a brief background, background information of how you have come up to be the one giving that speech. So that is what we have. Then we shall look at the body. Maybe before I even go to the body, in the introduction is very important in your speech, because it is from the introduction that people will really find your speech, maybe think of it interesting, or sometimes even boring. In the introduction, still after you've given your brief background, as you're starting to give the speech, can you please ensure that at least you make your speech a little more interesting? Here you can decide to begin maybe with a rhetoric question. You can decide to begin with a saying. You can decide to begin with a quotation. You can decide to begin with a puzzle, just to attract the attention of the people listening to you so that they pay more attention, and then maybe put more emphasis and say, I think this person is an orator. Let me listen more to what he or she is about to say. So we are looking at the body from the introduction. We are saying here in the body, this is where you're going to develop the key points. Sorry, the main points. This is where you're going to develop the main points. You could have hinted on one or two maybe in your introduction, in your brief background of the topic. But we are saying when in the body, you're going to give now these points in detail. You're going to relate the points. Relate the points, maybe to your brief background. Relate the points to the topic. Relate the points maybe to your position as you already stipulated in our heading. You must make sure that you do it very well, because the body, this is the gist, maybe the heart of the speech. It is in the body that you are going to show the audience that you really know what you are talking about. It is in the body where you will even bring examples of supporting materials. Supporting materials. And these supporting materials could include maybe testimonies. You say, as you see me here, I am a testimony of the massacre that happened in a given place. Can you see the wounds that I have? I am a testimony. I survived narrowly. And because of this and this, maybe this should be put in place. I really urge you to ensure that you really fight this coronavirus, because I am a testimony of the people who survived it. And because I did ABC. So you give your testimonies there. We shall expect you maybe to give even statistics. You give testimonies. You give statistics. But these must be facts, really. Okay? At least you, a candidate who is writing, ensure that these look like facts. When you give statistics and you say, about 20,000 people died of coronavirus in Uganda, when for us we have not registered any, then those are very funny statistics. You should be accountable of what you say. And people are listening to you. The audience, How come for us we have not had any? Where is this person getting his, maybe his or her statistics? So ensure that at least the statistics are factual. Then you could also use charts. Could go ahead and use charts. You could have maybe had charts. You could have written on them some wordings. You could have maybe drawn some pictures just to elaborate more on what you are talking about. You could go ahead and use video clips. Could go ahead and use video clips. That is, if you have maybe you could be so that you show you have information, first-hand information, and you're showing the audience that this is really what is happening. If you are maybe talking about giving a speech on maybe talking to the community about child trafficking, and some of these people may not believe that sincerely children are trafficked, you know, you could come up with a video, maybe you have researched, and then you show to the audience that this is what I mean, this is what is happening. It is happening here in our country, it is happening outside countries, and it is happening elsewhere. So that these people go, oh, all along it is true that children are being trafficked. So they get, at least it builds confidence maybe in what you're saying from the audience. It shows the audience that you really know what you're talking about. Then you are sure of your facts and so on. So still the body has a lot that you could involve or talk about when you are giving your speech, because this is the heart of that speech. Then maybe we can look at the conclusion. When you're looking at the conclusion, grab this. The conclusion of your speech. So, of course, after you have elaborated everything in your body, there should be a conclusion. And we are saying what must be the conclusion. The conclusion will leave a landmark of your speech. So ensure that your conclusion is one of the best that you can ever give, because the audience may not remember even a lot of what you have said, but your conclusive remarks will leave either a scar or it will be a landmark of your speech and of you. Many people will remember you of how you concluded your speech. Many people will remember of how you compressed the whole information and summarized it at the end of the day. So make sure that in your conclusion you reinforce the main ideas. You reinforce the main ideas so that they sink deep, especially those ideas that you think are very important, crucial in your speech writing. You could summarize them 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 5, and summarize them and reinforce them in your conclusion. Then what else could you say? Yes, make a summary. Make a summary. Make a summary of what has been said. What has been said. Make a summary of what has been said. You can also leave a rhetoric question for the audience to ponder, to think more about what you have said. A rhetoric question, this is a question that is normally asked but does not necessarily need an answer. But the essence or the reason of asking this question is to attract, one, to attract the attention of the audience, and maybe two, to make them think about what you have said. Okay? For example, you could say at the end of your speech, what if the government did not wake up early to arrest the situation of this epidemic? If you left such a question, what if the government did not start up early or did not wake up early to arrest the situation of the epidemic? You're going to realize that people will think, maybe many people would have died. Maybe it would have spread further. Maybe it would have, the situation would have been worse. So you've left the question. You do not expect immediate answers from people, but you want people to think about what you have, what the main points of your discussion. So let's look at our question here of our example. The question is, assuming you're the health inspector, assuming you're the health inspector of your district, full stop. Cholera has attacked your community, and in the presence of some government officials, you are to address the local people of ways to prevent this deadly pandemic. Write a speech addressing the above matter. So we are looking at how we are writing that speech, or how we are going to write this speech. So as you're reading on the screen, I could also be reading with you. And here is the response. Speech by the District Health Inspector on 12th June 2020 about the cholera plight at Gulu District Headquarters. Okay? That is our heading. We talked about the heading, and if you look at our heading, all the aspects that we need to put in our heading are there in this example. Then we begin with our introduction. And then in the introduction, we are respecting protocol. Maybe what I have not indicated here, I could give an example here. Sometimes there are different ways in which people respect protocol. Sometimes the students will use the block, because here we have, we'll come here and say, our guest of honor. Our guest of honor, the Minister of Health, and then we'll come here and say, Chairperson LC5, Chairperson LC5, Gulu District, and then we'll come here and then say the mayor of the municipal council, and then comes and says, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, some people will write it like that. And I know some students out there will say, this is how our teachers taught you. But there's also another one which is better, I would think so, where we are going to use the paragraph as you see on the screen. Yes, this is block. Some of your teachers have taught you like that. But we have another way, as you see on the screen. We are using the paragraph, and we are saying, our dear invited guests present, the State Minister of Health, members of Parliament, Gulu District, LC5 Chairperson, LC3 Kabong Town Council, the Town Clerk, Gulu Municipal Council, fellow villagers, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, some of these maybe, I could say, there are so many. You could use about 5, 4, but what we are interested in is to see that you're really respecting the protocol. Do not just use one and you say, our dear invited guests present, full stop, and then you continue. I am so and so. Have you really respected protocol? Were those the only, was that the only person around? At least, how about 4 or 5 that people whose titles you're respecting, at least before you go to introduce yourself. So that is respecting protocol. Protocol is very important when you are giving a speech or writing a speech. Do not say protocol observed, please. Respect the protocol. Do not fear to respect. And we are saying that we are beginning from the highest ranked person to the lowest. So put that in mind as candidates. Then from there, we shall go to our next paragraph and then say, we are still on the introduction, remember. I am Akelo Primrose, the District Health Inspector, and I welcome you to this solemn occasion. So here you see that this person has introduced himself or herself, and by name and then by title, so that you know all along Akelo Primrose is the District Health Inspector. I didn't know where to go when I had issues to do with the health and maybe inspection. So now you know Akelo Primrose is our District Health Inspector there in our speech. Then you continue to say that after he has welcomed us, he has not greeted us, but at least he has welcomed us. The welcome could also act as a greeting in that speech. He's saying, it is now 5 days since this deadly epidemic struck our village and has since threatened the lives of our hardworking citizens. Mark the 5 days is giving us statistics of how long this epidemic has been in our community. So he knows or she knows what he's talking about. Okay? So that's why I'm saying that even you, be sure. Of course, for creativity's sake, you could just put a number. But if you're writing a real speech, you should be sure of what you are talking about. But of course, for academic purposes and to show the examiner that you know what you're talking about, you can come up with any statistics that show that maybe this is actually what happened, even when it is not true. But when you're writing the actual speech, be sure of what you're writing. Then he continues to say, a team of medical expatriates and local practitioners are coming this afternoon to put cholera under control. I thank the government for the concern it has shown by quickly intervening in this situation. Okay? So he's thanking the government by intervening. And then in the second paragraph, in another paragraph, he says, friends of mine, in a meanwhile, I am here to offer advice on the ways you can take on to prevent this killer disease from spreading further. We have to observe proper hygiene. Mark the words, friends of mine. You may not necessarily be his or her friends, but he's trying to bring you closer. He's attracting your attention. He has called us friends. Friends of mine. So you are paying now more attention because he has brought you closer to himself. And he's saying, all families should use latrines. We should avoid going to the bush to ease ourselves, since the disease is a contagious one. Okay? So there he's telling us and giving us precautions. We should cover our toilets and keep flies away. All drinking water must be boiled or treated with tablets we have received in our homestay, which means the district has already distributed tablets in different homes. Boiled and treated water should be put in the clean jerry cans we got from the district offices last week. Any person passing out watery stool and vomiting should be reported to the nearest health center for medical attention. Colleagues. Now mark that word, colleagues. He's also still bringing you closer to him or her to make sure that you are engaged, part of his speech. So he's saying, colleagues, ensure that you thoroughly wash your hands with clean water and soap after visiting the latrines. We should cover our food to keep flies away. Cholera patients should be given plenty of fluids to replace the water lost and the salt being continuously lost from the body. You should also avoid handshaking while greeting. Once again, the last paragraph. On behalf of my fellow villagers, I wish to extend my sincere appreciation to the government of Uganda through the Minister of Health for the swift attention you paid to our community to eradicate this unwelcome visitor, cholera, who had forced his way in our homes for God and my country. So that is the speech that the district inspector of health has given us. Okay? So let me leave you with a question that you can attempt as we conclude. Okay? The exercise is, please look on the screen. You are the head prefect of your school. COVID-19 has attacked the world and the people of your country. Schools have been closed and students are going home. In the presence of the Minister of Health, parents, and the school administrators, write a speech addressing students on the above matter. So thank you so much for paying attention to this lesson. I will leave my email again. It's mnanyonjo1987 @gmail.com. Thank you so much for paying attention.